We got a first of 3 7:30 games, and then we have the last 2 8 o'clock games, and then we're done with for the day. We don't have any Pac-12 after dark. Very heartbreaking. But 7:30, we got number 25 Miami, who's 4-1. Traveling to number 12 UNC, who's 5-0. UNC favored by 3 on ABC. Tyler Van Dyke has gone 98 of 135, thrown for 1,330 yards, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Henry Parrish Jr. has had 59 carries for 379 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Xavier Restrepo has had 36 catches for 478 yards and 2 touchdowns. Drake May has gone 129 of 179, thrown for 1,629 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. O'Marion Hampton has had 88 carries for 461 yards and 7 touchdowns. And Nate McCombs had 28 catches for 355 yards and a touchdown. UNC's 13-11 against Miami all time. Last 4 games have gone to UNC from 2019 to 2022. Mac Brown, again, undefeated against Miami. But herein lies the rub. This is the best Miami team that's been in a while. But I can't talk about Miami UNC without at least touching on what an awful blown game the Miami Georgia Tech game was. I thought that game was going to be close. I called it when I was making the video. I called Georgia Tech to cover that one. Didn't expect it to be the way it happened, right? But to be fair, Georgia Tech's a competent football team. They were good. They played really good defense throughout, but Miami had made enough plays. They were going to win that game. They were going to be undefeated. It was going to be undefeated Miami versus undefeated UNC. I can't talk about Miami UNC without talking about the befuddling decision to run the ball with Georgia Tech having 0 timeouts and only 37 seconds on the clock. I cannot describe to you how stupid that decision was. It was moronic. I cannot think of a worse choice made by a head coach ever. There was no point to do that. The game was won. You take a knee and it's over. Instead, you run the ball. What is Georgia Tech going to do? They're going to obviously try and strip the ball. It's their only chance to win the game. Guess what? They stripped the ball. Georgia Tech recovers it. You lose the game in 3 plays of offense, by the way. That's how many plays it took. Incompetent is the word to describe that. And the heartbreaking thing is, this was going to be one of the better games of the week. It was going to be undefeated versus undefeated. This was going to be a game that could determine who goes to the ACC championship game. This was going to be a hugely important game. Instead, now we're looking at it as like, is Miami going to be eliminated from playoff contention this week? Because that was super incompetent last week. If you eke by Georgia Tech, those comments don't stay, by the way. I'm not saying Georgia Tech's bad. Louisville eked by Georgia Tech. Ole Miss eked by Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has played some competent football this year. They're not the worst team in the ACC. They shouldn't make a bowl game. But you shouldn't have lost to them, number one, if you're Miami. And especially the way you lost to them is heartbreaking. And, I'm not even touching on the fact that UNC dominated a good Syracuse team. A Syracuse team, a lot of people that were 4-0 not that long ago, right? And UNC just laid them down. They just destroyed them. UNC is a really good football team. Miami, despite all the sayings to fire Cristobal, which I understand, that was an incompetent call by him, he has made Miami at least meaningful again, which is something that hasn't been said in a long time. And if he wins this game, all of a sudden, all the conversations about him losing the Georgia Tech game go out the window. It's Mac Brown versus Mario Cristobal. These are 2 of the better coaches in the ACC, despite last week. I like Miami to go on the road and kind of pull off this upset. They have a lot to play for since last week. Give me Miami on the road. I like them to hand UNC their first loss.